Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Artcasters number 104. And we've got with us today, as usual, Joshua Kemble. How can they find you, Josh?
You can find me by looking up Joshua Kemble with a K on YouTube, and you can also check out my graphic novel at quarterlystories.com.
And we also have with us Holly Brown, returning guest.
I'm Holly.
Where can they find you, Holly?
They can find me on HC Brown on YouTube, but that's actually kind of hard to find because there's dots. So just look up Holly is Totally Cool and you'll find it.
Yeah, we've got a link in the description too. So.
And all graphics for my comic stuff, all one word.
And you are on my channel, so you probably know where to find me. But if you don't, you can find me pretty much Serkworks anywhere on the internet. So yeah, we've asked Holly back on because it's been a little while since we talked to her, and she's done quite a few different things since then. A few of those things are this huge. I mean, if you haven't seen her going through this massive sketchbook that she just completed, I mean, it just basically it made me want to give up, you know, because I've been just so bad about. I had sort of this, you know. Earlier, I said I'm going to really hit sketchbooks, and then I just got distracted, and I feel horrible. but yeah, it was just really an amazing accomplishment. She also finished a Kickstarter for one of her comics, and when I say one, she is actually working on 2 comic books right now. So yeah, just a lot of stuff going on. So we want to talk about a few of that. So let's start off with the Sketchbook Slam. Now, was that a challenge that you created, or was that something that you just adopted and like a challenge you took on?
So I actually based it off of a class I had when I was at MCAT. It was like it was an anatomy for an animation class basically, and we had to do. It was like this crazy assignment, and ever since then I've just like thought about it, and I just kept thinking about it. But we basically had to fill these 18 by 24 inch. So that's like 2 feet. How many feet is, I'm bad at math. That's like 1.5 feet by 2 feet sheets of paper, and it was like 20 of them, like every day for like a week. And I was like, that seems hard, but why not make it harder? And I keep seeing all these really stupid challenges on YouTube, and I'm like, yeah, but they're not necessarily hard. So I saw that gigantic sketchbook on Amazon, and it's been in my wish list for like 2 years. And I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if you did it like a challenge for that? And I was originally going to do this the challenge. I was originally going to make it to be 1 week. And I was like, holy shit, 600 pages in 1 week. That might be too hard, even for me. Like, that might be too hard. So I made it a month. And yeah, I don't know. The whole point of it was just to get better at drawing faster and to get better at drawing just like in general. Because when you draw that much, you get bored, and you don't want to draw the same shit that you draw all the time. And I thought like maybe I would like be resting on my laurels, but like the majority of what I was doing was just reference stuff, because that's actually the easier shit to do when you're trying to draw fast.
Well, it's also, I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, just that much drawing and just how much better you get. And I think on one of your videos you had mentioned, and I know it wasn't directed at me, but I was definitely guilty of that. But you had talked about how some people who had been working professionally for a while, they kind of stopped sketching and haven't gone back to learning. And I mean, that's one of my biggest like things that I just hate myself for. Is that it's just like, I mean, it's like, it's not that I'm not drawing, because I'm constantly drawing. I'm constantly working. I work as an artist. I go home. I do all my side stuff as an artist, but I'm just basically repeating things that I'm comfortable with, and I'm not learning new things. So it's like, but on the other hand, you know, I'm trying to build a business and trying to, you know, just
like a
do
life.
my professional work. Yeah, but it's still, I mean, it's like, but I've seen people like, I don't know, a while back when like Will Terrell was doing videos, but he was also taking the online classes and stuff and just improving and all that stuff. It's like, I really need to do that. I need to kind of go back to basics and kind of relearn things that I probably have been doing wrong for a while and that I just got comfortable doing. So, but Yeah, I was curious. So with the Sketchbook Slam, because if you haven't seen it again, it's such a massive. I mean, when you say art challenges, and I just did a video on art challenges, but they're really not a challenge compared to what this was. Now I'm curious, because it's not something just anyone can do. And I saw Babe J was doing it. I don't know if she completed it, but is there anyone besides you that actually took on the challenge and actually completed it?
Yeah, a couple people did.
Okay, awesome. That's awesome.
The thing is that since it's 30 days, so I think some people are like not quite there, but pretty much there. But I've been following the tags, and like, I don't know, about 4 people have finished it so far. But that's kind of like 4 people that I know of. Like, I don't know. I haven't been like, it's not something that I'm like willing to police and care about that much.
Right,
it's more for you.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I don't really give a shit if you cheat. Like it's you're really only cheating yourself if you're willing to like lie about like how many sketches you did that day, because it's really like you either do a challenge or you don't. Like
yeah.
So I don't know, but a couple people have finished it. Bailey finished it. Terry Delgado finished it. A couple other people did. Yeah, it's super cool though, because you see a bunch of people who if you look at the Amazon reviews of these sketchbooks, it's like, I bought this for the Sketchbook Slam challenge. I'm like, and then they're like, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to finish that. Makes me laugh.
So hopefully you put like an affiliate link on your video for that sketchbook.
Oh hell yeah! Because it's like I'm so mad because I like contacted these companies because so many people wanted to do it, but they're international. And that was a big issue with, I think that's why less people did it, is because they wanted the hardcover sketchbook. But like if you wanted it overseas, it would be like $70 or something crazy like that. So I was like, I contacted 2, because 2 companies make these ridiculous sketchbooks. And one of them didn't respond to me at all. And the other one was like, we're talking to a distributor to get it internationally, but we don't know when. And I was like, aw. Because they're basically giant phone books. Like, trying to transport these, I imagine, would be a bitch. So, I can hold it in front. Like, you wouldn't think it's that big till you compare it to, like, a normal sketchbook. I took the hardcover portion off, so, like, it's, like, that thick. That's, like, my hand.
Jeez. 30 days, wow.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I got a lot better at drawing my characters, which is what I wanted, because it's really hard for me to get characters on model. So like, just in general, it takes me forever to like figure out how to draw them well. Like, you're supposed to break them down into shapes so you can like get them, right. But yeah, I do that when I design the characters, but like when you're actually drawing it, it's like the little quirks that always screw me up when I draw characters. So I drew Herschel like, I don't know how many times. And I feel like I'm good. Like I know how to draw my characters now, which is nice.
Yeah. Now were you just, and I did watch the video, but I'm trying to, because I mean, it wasn't just characters from Purgatory. It was also characters from, well, Herschel's from
Paranormal Play. Yeah, he's
right.
in this one. He looks like this. Come on, Photoshop.
But what I was going to say is, yeah, I mean, if you were to do that, I mean, it's really, assuming you can do that challenge. I mean, yeah, you would have to get your characters would have to be like, you'd have to have them down after that long. So, I mean, after that many pages. Or
at least like, because one thing I've been really trying to improve is like making characters with different proportions. And one thing that always really jacks me up is just getting the proportions accurate every time. And Herschel's he's like lean muscle. He's not skinny. He's not fat. So it's like, to get him right for me is like, I don't know why it's so difficult for me to draw him right. It's like, if you're just like 25% off, you're all off. And it's just, it makes me so mad. So yeah, I don't know. Like, you really do have to draw your character like a bajillion times to make sure they're right. I don't know.
Yeah, I can look at
doing Purgatory.
I can look back at mine and I notice how the hairstyles kind of change, and it's like I would have sort of taken some cues from animation, and even if they're not, even if it's, you know, watch, like, I mean, they're getting better because it's getting easier to do hair, but like early, not even early, but just even a few years ago, where they had, you know, like three-dimensional characters, like in Star Wars, like Clone Wars or whatever. Their hair doesn't really move, you know.
Yeah, it's like Play-Doh. It's just sort of stuck
right,
there. Yeah,
but it's got a style to it. It doesn't look bad. It's just that's the way it is. But I probably should have done something similar to that with mine, instead of, like, you know, when it gets messy and everything, and just sometimes it just definitely looks off model. So
I think it's totally about you have to have set rules for like how you draw them. Like for Purgatory, their hair is like super anime and stiff, but that is not how I draw like Paranormal Plague characters. Like Paranormal Plague is stylistically a little different than Purgatory. Like Damien's hair is literally like, what the fuck? Like, I don't even know how that would work in reality. Like,
well, it's like Wolverine's hair.
Yeah, it's like how does his hair function? I don't know. But in Purgatory, I mean Paranormal Plague, I don't know why I chose two P names for these comics, but yeah, I want it to be a little more naturalistic. So it's like, I don't know. You kind of have to pick your battles with certain comics, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, you kind of, since we brought it up, I mean, I do want to talk about the Kickstarter, but I want to kind of find out where was because I know you've been planning on doing Paranormal Plague for a while, and to me, I mean, I got Purgatory. I'm like halfway through with it right now, and that's only the first half. I mean, you're working on the second half now, but Paranormal Plague is something that it looks like it's a little more in you know, something that I'm going to be more interested in. But
yeah, it's a comedy.
Yeah, and I'm big into like humor and stuff like that, and that type, a little more lighthearted and everything. At least, well, I don't know if you can call mine lighthearted because there's zombies trying to kill kids and stuff, but it's still kind of fun. but so originally, I mean, you were going to wait until you finished Purgatory, all of it, and then start Paranormal Plague. But then all of a sudden you decided, no, I'm going to do 2 comic books at once. So how's that going for you, and what kind of drove you to that decision?
Okay, well, I've been back and forth on this decision for like, if you watch my vlogs, I'm sorry, but like every week I'll say something that's counterintuitive to what I said last week, because I'm just like not very decisive on anything. But working on Purgatory for like, I don't know, 2.5 years straight, nothing else, gets a little boring when it's like page after page after page. And I just kept coming up with Paranormal Plague ideas to the point where it's like, if I don't draw this or write this or something, I'm going to lose it. And it's possibly a pretty good story idea. So I kept compiling all this Paranormal Plague stuff to the point where it was just like a binder of stuff while I was drawing Purgatory. And I don't know, I had the first 2 pages done for Paranormal Plague a while, like the inks. I didn't color it till like last week, but yeah, I don't know. It's just, I like to be busy. There's not like a real answer other than I will get bored and then I will not finish either.
So do you have it kind of, is there a schedule that you have that you say, well, I work on this comic these days or during these hours, and then I work on that, or is it just whenever you feel like working on one or the other, or?
So I've been doing this schedule for like 2 weeks, and doing YouTube videos and school and all that crap. So basically how I have it worked out is I do 5 pages of Purgatory, and I want to do 4 of Paranormal Plague, but the pages, since they're full color, I don't think I could do that. I need to be more reasonable. So far it's only 2 pages a week of that. So in total it's 7 pages. So it's lowering the amount of Purgatory pages I would make, but I feel like I'm spending more time on them. So it's kind of worth it. And it makes me less bored with the purgatory pages. So I don't know. It just makes me think more about like the actual comic as opposed to just like a deadline of nothingness.
Yeah.
Is Paranormal Plague updating now? Like, is it webcomic?
Yeah, it's on Tapastic. Paranormal Plague, that's how you spell it. If you have a Tapastic app, you can just search in there. Or if you want to go on the website, which is TAPTASTIC. Oh my god, I don't know how to spell. Just I'll link it in the comments later. But yeah, I think I have the first 3 pages up. I'm working on the 4th and 5th page, so that'll be up this week.
How's the response been?
People like it because Herschel's hot, and that's literally like all.
Well, and the other thing is you've been talking about those characters for so long that you've kind of, people are probably chomping at the bit to actually read the story. So
yeah, because Purgatory is really niche. Like I'm not even gonna, I already knew that for a long time. Like so what? Nobody cares about Purgatories. I mean they do, but they don't. It's slow. Paranormal Plague is like very anime, you know, so people will latch onto it a lot easier. But yeah, people are like pretty excited about it. I think on the Tapastic I already have like 1,000 followers on there, and it took me like 2 years to get that for Purgatory.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure just your audience in general kind of that which you've already established kind of help, but also I would assume fans, even though they're different stories, fans of Purgatory are probably going to migrate to Paranormal Plague just because you're the artist and the author.
It's also in full color, which is not like,
that's gotta help.
Some people have like quite a bit of a stigma against black and white stuff that they just need to read it. You know, colors attract dumb people. Like, oh, colors! Like, I'm a baby. Colors. So like, I mean, I like colors, but if you have something super colorful, it'll attract people more than something black and white. So true. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, I've always kind of, that's one of my hesitations from putting Young and the Dead on, you know, as a webcomic, because it's not in color. And, you know, once this whole thing's complete, I'd like to do sort of a stretch goal for that, you know, and hopefully I wouldn't have to be the one coloring it. If I could afford to pay somebody to color it, that would be nice. But,
well, don't you do gray flats? Wouldn't it?
I do, yeah. So I mean, I could take those and I could do some work with that and kind of turn it into color.
Some webcomics that I read, they do like this only on special pages. They do color, and that's kind of cool for like a webcomic. Obviously not for printing, but like when you're reading it, it's kind of special when you see those pages actually turn to color, and you're like, oh, whoa.
Yeah, my special pages would just be the covers. Or like a pinup every now and then.
Yeah. Color sucks. Like a Purgatory page will take me like 3 hours, and then a Paranormal Plague page will take me 6 to 10 hours, and I'm like, oh.
That's about average for a comic. Well, that's a lot of times that's probably quicker. I mean, a lot of people spend that, you know, a good 8 hours just on a pencil and ink page.
Yeah, but I don't know. I switched to Clip Studio Paint, and it has like it's got a paint bucket tool thing that like recognizes layers. So like when you color stuff, it's super duper easy because you can have a layer that separates from your inks and still use the paint bucket tool.
Yeah, I've been trying to teach myself Clip Studio Pro every time, and I end up just going back to traditional. But
I watched like a 15-minute video on it, and it's like, I don't know, maybe I'll link it to you, because like that guy explained like all the necessities, and like half the features in this are just sort of stupid. I'm like why do you need half this? It's like needlessly confusing, some of this.
Yeah, if you can remember that, send it to me, because I had one that was on lynda.com. It was the guy that wrote I think he just wrote, is it Doug Hills, I think? He does a lot of tutorials on it, but he had I
think it's a comic guy that I watched. I don't remember his name. I watch his videos like every now and again, and he's like the master of Clip Studio Paint.
Yeah, I definitely want to learn it.
Some people are crazy with programs. I think it's like you need 70 layers. I'm like, do you really need 70 layers?
Yeah, that just gets confusing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like line art layer, color layer, some advanced shit here.
Yeah, this thing I'm working on now probably has, you know, a good 400 layers, but that's just because it's different because this is like an actual product where each little, you know, I'm building this robot avatar thing, so each eye is on a different layer, so if somebody wants to turn it off and build their own robots, but it just makes the file just so massive, and it's you know, they're all smart objects and everything. So
God, that's so cool though. How has that been on God dang, what website did you
Creative Market? Market. It's good and not great. I mean, I'm not worried because I'm just starting off, and I know you kind of have to build this up and everything. The good thing is I sort of feel vindicated because basically Creative Market feature product both in their handpicked section and they put it in their blog. And you know, their curator picked it out and everything and like that. So that was cool. But I was hoping, I kind of thought when I put it up there, I didn't think that would happen. So I wasn't expecting to sell any, because I think in order to have success on there, people have to be able to find you. Otherwise it just gets lost in there. So when I got featured, then I was kind of surprised because I haven't sold any yet. But I'm not discouraged, because I think I'm going to constantly put out more of these, and then I'm going to try to drive traffic myself, and eventually I'm confident that I'll start selling these. Plus, my ultimate goal is to get to the point where I'm selling like digital comic book, you know, products like brushes and
fonts.
You know, Kirby Crackle backgrounds that you can just slap down, and word balloon, like cool word balloons. I mean, and like cool like sound effects. I mean, I've seen tons of people do sound effects, and they look like the old Batman, 60s Batman. They just don't look. They look like what somebody who thinks a comic book is supposed to be would draw them as. Somebody who has no idea about comics. But I want to do cool comic book fonts and that whole thing, because there's people doing that stuff, but there's nobody doing all of it. There's nobody putting together a package that has, you know, cool fonts, or who's doing like cool backgrounds that you can add and manipulate, cool brushes, all that stuff. There's people doing just brushes or just fonts or whatever. So eventually, I think when I get to that point, I think that's going to be something, at least my audience, what I can call an audience, is probably going to be more interested in. This is more for, you know, this could be, what I'm doing now could be for if you're an Etsy seller and you want to design kids invitations, or you want to design, you know, package design or whatever. But so anyway, so it got featured and everything. That was cool. But the other cool thing was the whole way that I kind of decided to get into this. I started listening to this podcast called the Passive Income for Designers podcast. And this guy owns this company, Retro Supply Company, and basically that's what he started doing, was these digital products. And now he's built it into this big business, and that's his sole business. That's all he does, and he's quite successful doing it. So I just sent him an email saying, you know, thank you, I want to thank you, and I didn't even put a link to the product. I just said, hey, thank you, and he saw it. So, you know, he found a link that, I mean, I have any email that I send out has links, and I didn't have anything directly to the product, but he found it and he contacted me and asked if he could use my email as an endorsement, and maybe even do like a case study or something, which is cool. And I don't know if that'll actually happen or not, but the fact that he saw that it was a good product, this guy that's what he does, and the fact that the website saw that it was a good product. So I know it's good. But it's again, just like you said, we're talking about Paranormal Plague. It's very, very niche. I mean, if you go to Creative Market, you know, most people are selling, you know, script fonts and sort of, again, that sort of retro style, you know, brushes or whatever. This is something, somebody's got to be specifically looking for something like this for something that they're doing. Now, I was kind of hoping when I launched the zombie one, since it was Halloween, that would help. But, I'm in it for the long haul, and I kind of enjoy doing it. And it's actually fun, like taking these things, like once I get all these done. Right now I'm just working on the black and white versions, but once I get into like the color versions, just taking the pieces and putting them together. I know you're too young to remember color forms, Holly, but I don't know if you've heard of them before. But
no.
So color forms were these little, they're kind of like these little vinyl, almost like stickers, but you can pull them off and on, and they had like it came with a bunch of things, and there were licensed properties like Batman or whatever.
Yeah, I had G.I. Joe.
Yeah, and they also had this thing called Presto Magic, was a little different, but it was like transfer. You'd rub it with your pencil. Yeah. So color forms. Okay. Yeah, color forms were kind of like that, but they were little vinyl sheets, and you could create things, and you can move like I remember having a Batman one, and this is just showing my age. This is so long ago that they weren't like, each color form had maybe 2 colors because they were screen printed. So it's very, but you could they would have one with the legs and one with the body, and kind of tilt it and kind of make your own poses and stuff like that. But it kind of reminds me of that, just taking little pieces and just throwing them together and coming up with all these different creations. But but we're supposed to be talking about you, and somehow I'm talking about what I'm doing. So
reminds me of a video game customization thing. You'd be surprised, like everything now, every game. This is why a lot of games take so long to make now, is that every single person wants a custom character. So they'll have someone's job just be like make 40,000 hairstyles.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually working on a set that is a little less in like a genre niche, but it's basically going to be a cosplay set. So you've got basic heads, and then I've got all kinds of cool like anime style hairstyles, and ideally I would love to do like a full body thing, but I've just got to release this as my kind of minimum viable product. If it becomes successful, then the good thing about these products is they're digital. So if you want to add like bonus features to it, anyone that's already paid for it can get that for free, and it can help entice other people to buy it. But for right now, it's just the heads, but there's all kinds of cool stuff, like just cool headgear, and just it's crazy. It's going to be fun. So, but I've got like 3 other sets I think to do before I get to those, and that one will have a male version and a female version. So it's going to be fun. I mean, I've got them mostly drawn. I got to go and color them and do all that stuff, and it takes almost as long to do all the product shots to kind of show what you can do with it and everything that it does to create the actual product. So, but anyway, so, but like I said, I don't know, Josh, I haven't heard from you. I don't know if you had anything to ask for Holly. I don't want to hog up the conversation, but
I was actually just all jazzed about the color forms.
Oh yeah.
But so I do kind of have a question. So did the working on the sketchbook, did that impede your like productivity on the comic in general, or did it boost it?
It depends. I didn't start Paranormal Plague, but I was working on Purgatory pages the whole time. It made me really not want to draw, obviously. Yeah. But it also made me think a lot more about compositions this whole time. So a lot of my thumbnails in the later pages of Purgatory I think look better. Because I like thumbnail like each chapter out completely now, and then do the chapters, and my Purgatory chapters are long as heck. So it's like, I don't know, like 60 pages for every chapter. It's like a book chapter, not like a comic chapter where it's like, I don't know, 20 pages. Yeah. So I don't know. I was working on mostly thumbnails, but I also did a bunch of roughs. I don't know. It mostly just made me motivated to work on projects, because the whole time I did the sketchbook thing, I was just thinking like, oh, this character could do this. Oh, I now know how to draw this better. Oh, I could use this for a background here.
Yeah. That's the one thing, like, so, like, I love working my sketchbook, and it's actually a lot of fun for me, but for me, I always end up on projects. And then what Scott was talking about, where Scott, you were talking about kind of feeling like when you're working on a project, and like you start feeling like you're trapped in kind of redrawing the same kind of style or something like that, and kind of falling back on like old tropes. And one way I've been able to get around that, like without, you know, like for me, without using the sketchbook as much as I probably should, is to like, I'll literally like always try to challenge myself on every page with something I kind of haven't drawn. And if I have drawn it, try to draw it from a direction or an angle that's like kind of difficult, or maybe it's a close-up of something where a lot of the texture and like just, you know, execution of it's a little challenging, or in the, you know, maybe it's just like a crowd scene or something like that. So like for me, that's how I get around feeling kind of stuck in like a specific style. But at the same time, it's like I do relate with Scott in the sense of like being really impressed with like filling out the, like getting that many pages done in a sketchbook. I mean, like that inevitably is going to have an effect on your skills. And then aside from that, it's just like, I'm sure it's made you quicker, you know, which is kind of a cool thing. But I always like, I always am still kind of on the, maybe I'm kind of stuck still in the idea of like, I really like, if I have time, I want to be making stuff, you know, like stuff that I'm going to use, which is a weird thing, you know?
Yeah. That's like one of the, I mean, sometimes I'm like, Holly, you sketch like way too fucking much. You need to actually do things. Like,
it seems like you're doing a lot.
Like 2 comic books at once.
yeah, but when you see people, I don't know, it just like kind of bums me out sometimes. Like like obviously the sketchbook slam challenge, that's a little ridiculous. I don't sketch like that all the time. But a lot of the times I'll just like, instead of doing stuff, I'll procrastinate with the sketchbook. I'm like, well, I'll just like come up with ideas and just, you know, but I don't know. I've with comics, it's like certain things I like have like set backgrounds to, and like set place. Well, specifically for Purgatory, Paranormal Plague's a little different, but for Purgatory, it has like really set areas. So it's like there's only so much creativity when I can add more stuff. So like for me, it's like right now what I'm trying to like push myself to do is really focus on panel arrangement, because that's something I just feel like I'm really shitty at. I feel like all I do is shot, reverse shot, which is just awful. Don't. So I've been trying to do that, but I don't know. Sketchbooks are always like something that's like, if you feel like you need them, you need them. If you feel like you don't need them and you're doing stuff already, then you don't. I don't know. Yeah. I think because everybody has a different way of using a sketchbook, which I don't feel like I articulate very well. Like some people's sketchbooks, they look like utter shit because that's just how they sketch. That's not really, like, people's definition of sketch is different. So like my version of sketch is more like a drawing. So it helps me like process stuff better, but sometimes people process stuff better with just doing the final thing right away. So I don't know, man. I think if you really just, if you're focused on learning, you'll learn. If you don't, you're not.
Yeah, and I think like, honestly, I think like, to me, that it seems like a good takeaway out of this, regardless of whether you're, you know, taking on like a sketchbook challenge or Inktober or like a print or anything. It's like, you know, if you, I think if as an artist, if you find yourself like stagnant or like you're kind of relying on old tricks, it's not a bad idea to like change it up. And like Holly was saying, like if you're, you know, working on something where, you know, it's stuck in a certain environment, it's like, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't, you know, like change up the panel arrangements or just do something kind of to keep yourself growing, you know, because like, I do think like this whole thing is kind of a growth thing, because otherwise, like, why the hell are we doing art? You know, like if I don't know, like for me, if I feel like I'm not kind of leveling up or challenging myself, like I think I'd probably just like, you know, go to law school or something. You know, like
Yeah.
just like, you know, I don't know. Yeah.
One of the things that like always really stuck with me is like I watched this like really, really old Disney documentary, and it's like Walt Disney's actually in it. And it had like Milt Kahl and like all of the 9 great men in it. So it was like a super. I'll try to link it below if I can find it later, because it's super easy to find. But it's like all 4 of these artists are drawing a tree, and all of them draw it in a different way, and all of them say like something's difficult for them in a different way. Like I don't remember the dude, but one dude was like super. He was really focusing on just the shapes. Another dude was focusing on the details. Another dude was focusing on the overall composition. And then and it just shows you like how they improve their like initial sketch. So whenever I think about like artists improving, a lot of people think like, oh, you need to work on your anatomy, or you need to work on this. Yeah, I'm sure every artist needs to work on their anatomy. That's like duh. But certain artists, I don't know, like their flaws in what they fix. I don't know. It's hard for me to describe this very well, but I think what makes an artist get better is just them recognizing those flaws, and it's not always immediate. I don't know if that made any sense. That was just a verbal barf.
Huh. It kind of does, because it's like one of those things of if you know, basically if the blind are leading the blind, like they end up, you know, like over a cliff, you know, and it's like you can't really know you're blind until you see or you hear about sight. And then it's like when you hear about sight, you start getting this inclination that, hey, maybe I'm not seeing stuff the same way as other people. You know what I mean? So it's like that with art, where it's like a lot of the time when you start out at this thing, you're pretty blind. And like I think for most of us, like at least for me, like when I was in elementary school and stuff, you know, I was the one kid who kind of in my class, one of a few, who kind of just stuck with it when everybody stopped trying, because they were like, oh, I can only draw a happy face. I can't draw stuff that's not symbolic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think for those of us who kind of didn't stop there, it's like, you know, people, you know, when you're younger, like might be a little more easily impressed with like, you know, stuff. And after a while, like for me, I thought I was the best, because I was still kind of not capable of like seeing the flaws in my own work, you know? And it really was only until like I started really seeing what was weak in my work and working on it that I started getting any bit decent at this thing, you know? And then like, it's literally like a daily occurrence where I'll like make an error and be like, oh, I gotta get better at that. You know, like I draw like heck on this poster, and it's funny because we had Corey Kerr on last week, and he was talking about drawing trees symbolically and bushes symbolically, and then I've been doing this illustration with trees and bushes, and I'm doing exactly what Corey was talking about catching himself doing. You know, so now I know I got to work on drawing bushes and stuff. It's a fascinating thing, you know.
Yeah, my bushes and trees tend to look alike too. So.
Well, it's also kind of like it's like that Jake Parker thing with like the like artist library thing. It's like it's like every artist will interpret something in their own way, but there's also resting on the way that you interpret it. Sometimes it might not be like a visual symbol, but it will be your visual symbol. So like the way I draw bricks is pretty much always the same. But some people draw bricks like they'll make lines like this, and then they do like kind of a grid thing. Neither way is necessarily wrong. It's just you have to know how to do it different ways if you need to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, no, I think you're right, and I think like there's like the cool thing about doing like a massive sketchbook challenge like that, or completing like a comic, which you've just done, and you're like starting 2 more, which is crazy awesome. But like, the neat thing about that is like when you complete that thing, you can see so many things you need to improve on because you like you try to tell a story that's over 100 pages, and it's like inevitably you're going to run into, if you're being honest with your storytelling, where you're like, I got to do a scene that's here, and you're visualizing it, and then you force yourself to draw it. It's like you really come out of that experience like with a stronger knowledge of like stylistic things, like, hey, this is how I like to draw bricks, or B, like another thing where it's like, and not with the bricks, because I think like bricks are one of those things most people have their own like way of doing them,
Yeah.
But maybe there's something else that you come out of it going like, I gotta stop doing this because that's a crutch, So it's
like for me, if you notice, in like every purgatory chapter, there's like somebody drinking coffee, and it's like, Holly, stop doing that. Stop it. Like, I don't know. It's like my go-to thing. It's like, well, what are they doing today? Well, I guess they're just drinking coffee for no apparent reason.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that is a pretty good practice. Like everybody should be constantly drinking.
That's
coffee.
like my favorite thing is to see, like, I would call that more of a quirk that I didn't know until I noticed it. But like I noticed that in like a lot of people's stuff, it's like they'll have like certain tropes that they put in, and they like don't even know that they do it. I watched this like Milt Call animation thing, and he does like this weird hand thing. I don't know how to describe it other than like he like moves the hands like this. I don't even know if people will see that, but when you do comics, I think that's something you need to avidly avoid. You gotta find what weird quirks you're doing, and unless it's intentional, quit doing it. Because it's like, why? It like linearly, that doesn't like. There's so many better ways to write a scene than to like just say, "Oh, they're drinking coffee." Sorry.
Sense. Yeah, it's like the washing dishes trope in every sitcom, right?
Yeah.
It's like, we're going to have an argument. It's going to be when they're washing dishes.
Or the I'm at a bar, I'm sad scene.
Yeah. Which I've fallen for that trope. And like my first graphic novel that I ever did had that. Like, I'm sad, I'm going to a bar.
Well, I mean, if it depends, but like, yeah, I don't know. Like writing wise, I feel like Purgatory's like less strong than I want it to be, but whatever. I'm too far in.
Well, the first book is what it is, and then it's on to the next book. Like, yeah. If you look at like the first issues of Cerebrus by Dave Sim, it's just like it's like night and day. Like the writing, the art, like everything is like so polar opposite from where he ends up near the end. Like we were just talking about this, weren't we, Scott? Like I think we were talking about like Jeff Smith and Bone and how like an anomaly.
Yeah.
Like, one of the few who like stuck like actually started as tight and amazing as he ended.
That's always kind of weird to me. Like I've only seen like, so I don't read a lot of American comics because I'm just anime trash, but I read a lot of manga, and it's just always really weird to me when I see an artist who's like the same. Because like even like the most simple art style, like Scott Pilgrim's pretty simple. It's like his style is like completely different at the end, and the way he draws everything is like much cleaner and less ick. And I don't know. It's so when people are like good from the start and they keep it exactly the same, I'm like, well, robot.
Yeah. Well, then I think we heard that Jeff Smith had been doing the comic book somewhere else, kind of like where no one even kind of saw it. So he probably went through that whole stage, but by the time he decided to put it out where the public could see it, he was at that point. So I don't know, but it's interesting.
Yeah,
some comic artists, like I saw this in a Scott McCloud thing with his last what was it? What is it called? Oh, with the sculptor. Sorry, I had to look on my bookshelf to remember what it was called. Apparently, he like drew like all 500 pages and then just did the inks and colors at once, which helps because then like he could just like fix it all.
Yeah.
So maybe that's how people get like that perfectness. I don't know. Because when you start off like A to Z instead of like a logistical kind of pattern, yeah, stuff's not gonna match. Like how shows at the beginning are always kind of ugly and then they get better. I don't know. Ugh. Maybe that's why. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's funny because right now the approach I'm taking with this is like, just spending like not this one that I'm working on a poster, but with the graphic novel I've been working on. It's like I'm taking a long time on the pages, but I'm kind of trying to rest at the point where I'm really confident in each page. You know.
Yeah.
I have noticed it's pretty much more consistent. But there's still a really interesting transition, like, because if you look at like the first 10 pages of Quarterly Stories, it's like, it's a little more graphic and a little less hatchy. Like I used a lot less cross-hatching. And then as I kind of started developing into the style I wanted for this comic, it kind of does shift a little bit. But I don't know if anyone will notice. I hope no one notices. But
what I noticed when I did Purgatory is, well, the art just like didn't look like shit after a while, but my line art just like slowly got thinner and thinner and thinner. It was like super thick at first.
Yeah.
I corrected all that in the final book. You don't see that, but yeah, it's weird. It's like the things that you think are like. I'm betting like a lot of people when they do like a bunch of comic books, like I have a dude I went to high school with, he works for like, I don't know, like 6 different comic companies. And like he showed a stack of like all the crap he did over the month. And it's like 80 pages of comics in 1 month. And I'm like, holy shit, you must want to kill yourself. And I'm betting like, oh my God, I just lost my train of thought. Oh my God. Damn it.
Guy you were going to high school with, you said?
Yeah, but what was I talking about?
After doing that many pages, are you saying stylistic shifts or?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
No problem.
I like zoned out for a second. I'm betting over like doing all of those comic pages, like the start of the stack probably looks different from the end of the stack, even in 1 month span. I'm betting. I don't know. Because even I'm sure like older artists probably don't get this as much because they're just like so set in what they like. But from this year, like from like last year to this year, my art's totally different. Both in just like terrible anatomy and just like how I draw. So like I think one of the reasons why like people gravitate to like Jack Kirby and like all of the iconic comic people is because those guys were like 40 years old when they started. Like they kind of been drawing for a while. So it's like when you're younger, I think your art's just gonna be shittier for a while and not as consistent.
Yeah, hopefully, or you're just like that dickhead anomaly,
I've met a few people like that. I'm like, aw, you're a genius.
Yeah.
I hate you.
That quote about Jack Kirby where he was like 40 when he created the Fantastic Four, it's sort of reassuring to me, like I still have time.
well, it's I don't know why so many like artists like worry about getting their creations done. It's like Miyazaki, he didn't even really get into prominence till his like late 30s.
Yeah.
Like, and look at him. He's made like I don't know how many million movies at this point, and done Nausicaa. I mean, like that. Like I have the comics on my shelf, and it's like two phone books.
Yeah, that's beautiful too. The thing that I think like that I've come around to thinking, whereas like when I was younger, I did a graphic novel and I did it in full color and stuff. And now it's like I just don't even want to produce it. Like I don't want to put it out there because I've had a few books out. Not, you know, like I've done a couple comics, but I've had a few just like illustrated books out that were for clients that like, I honestly, like, I don't feel any sense of like pride or ownership over those things because I just kind of crapped them out for money, you know, like, and so like, my perspective shifted where now like my concern isn't so much like completion as like, execution and completion. Like I want to make sure I'm making the best pages I can make. But it's a fine balance, right? Because there's still a point where you have to be like, it's done, you know, because you can overwork anything to death, you know. Like a perfect person trying to make a perfect page could just sit on a page for like 10 years, you know.
Yeah, but then it wouldn't really be perfect. It would just be your version of perfect.
Exactly, yeah. So it's like a fine balance that, you know, obviously I'm not making like perfect pages, but I'm trying to make the best pages I can make within a reasonable time limit and yet spend the time I really need to kind of, for my pace. Because I've realized like I'm not a quick artist. Like I do quick art for a living, you know, and I can knock out like, you know, airplane diagram type art or, you know, like really quick graphic designs for like, you know, souvenirs and stuff that I'm doing in-house. But it's like, I want the stuff I'm doing that's, you know, creator owns to like really reflect like what I think is good, you know? And like,
yeah,
that's a hard place to get to. And like, I don't know if I could have, for me, I don't think I could have gotten there. Like it seems like, honestly, Holly, it seems like you're getting there a lot earlier, which is good. But I don't know if I could have gotten there. I think I kind of had to illustrate like a lot of crappy illustrations for clients to like get to that point, you know, like for me.
yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, I might just look back and like just like totally not give a shit about Purgatory, you know, or any of these comics. It the only reason that it matters to me right now is because it matters to me right now. Like I see a lot of art, like older artists, and they're like, yeah, I'm never gonna sell this book online again, and it's like, why? It's so good, but it's only good to me, and not.
Oh, did we
Did we lose her? I still see her video, it looks like.
Oh, did you not hear me?
Yeah, you just cut out for a second there, but we hear you.
Oh,
we hear
no.
you
I don't know why. My internet's pretty shit, so maybe that's why. I don't know.
I think it's also Hangouts. It just kind of cuts out sometimes.
Well, I also I think I need to close Photoshop. Photoshop, stop.
So you were saying,
but yeah, I think most artists, like over time, whatever they're working on represents them only at that current time. So sometimes that's why I like try to get my ideas down so fast, because I know maybe later in life that won't resonate with me anymore. You know, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. And the weird thing is, like, of all of the publications, like, the only thing I really, see, this is why I think you might be looking back, like, in 10 years or whatever, and be really happy with Purgatory, because, like, I'm still really happy with Numb, which was my first comic. And part of that is because I made the comic I wanted to make at the time. And the art in it's, like, nowhere near where I'm at skill-wise now, because it was, like, my first thing, you know? But I still, like, take pride in it, and I have no issue with somebody, like, purchasing it, because I know that, like, at that time, that was the best I could do. And it was, like, the story I wanted to tell at that time. I don't like the story now, but I'll still sell it, you know what I mean? Whereas I feel like the other, like, the graphic novel is different, because I feel like I took shortcuts to try to complete it and wasn't as concerned with just making it good. You know?
Yeah.
So I think you're actually going to be okay, because, like I said, you'll, you know, if you can look back and be like, yeah, when I was this age, I made this book, and it was the best book I could make. And I sold copies and hustled it, got it printed, and figured out all this Kickstarter stuff, and like, you know, figured out the shipping to get it out to people. Like, that's going to be a good, honestly, it'll be a better memory than an experience of doing, you know?
I can tell you right now that shipping was probably the most stress, and it's still the most stress because some people won't fill out their stupid backer reports.
Well, I don't
I've sent like 16 different, like hundreds of emails, like 16 times to some people, and I'm like, I'm guessing they didn't put in their right email, so I think I might have to, like, I don't know, I'll have to like track them down somehow, or I think I can do I don't know if you can do an update of a Kickstarter after it's finished, but I might have to do that and tell people to check your emails. Because like 50 people have not responded, and it's just driving me up the wall.
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember getting mine, but you know, my email. So I don't know if that's the case.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it just maybe it just like spam. You know, it could be just flagged as spam, or I don't know. Maybe I should. I don't know. I'm not like an expert on Kickstarter, so maybe I just should have done like more of an update thing. I don't know. If I could fix anything, I would have just. If I was gonna do Kickstarter again, I would probably be more. I would tell people to do the backer report like right away, instead of wait till I'm ready to ship them. Because I didn't realize it's just like a list. I don't know what I thought it was, but it's just like a list of addresses. It's nothing like. It's okay to hoard that. It's not gonna go away.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So speaking of the Kickstarter, I mean, what was, aside from the shipping, what was what was your experience with it? I mean, I don't know how much research you went into it, you know, before you started, or did you make any mistakes? Were there things you're going to do differently next time? Did it go super smoothly? Did you fund kind of where you thought you were going to fund? Did you over exceed your thoughts, your goals, or, you know?
Well, I literally thought I would get like nobody backing it. So, I mean, I did pretty well considering. I don't know. I don't really have very good faith in Purgatory, despite me working on it for a long time. So it funded way better than I thought it would. And I can like give slight numbers. Around 60% of what funded is shipping. so like, don't think I got $7,000. I didn't get $7,000.
Yeah, everyone has to explain that because people just you know.
But for what I wanted it, I really just wanted enough to really just pay for like enough to save for a car, and then in the end I didn't even need it because my dad gave me his truck. So I'm like, oh well, this is fine. So I bought my mom a fridge.
Did you get your license yet?
Yeah, I got my license.
Congratulations! Awesome.
I need to look at insurance to figure out how to do that because I haven't gotten the title to the truck yet. But yeah, it went well. It's just like, oh man, I felt there's a couple things with Kickstarter that I feel like I could have done better. I misspelled things in the Kickstarter page, and I had to fix that like 6 times. B, so get somebody to check it. I felt so embarrassed about that. B, what else? I felt like I didn't have enough rewards because I don't know. I don't really like. I should probably not base Kickstarters on me, basically, because my whole steez is like I don't like stupid shit. Like so many Kickstarters for comics are just like, get this key ring or get this dumb thing that you don't care about, and I just want the book. So I kind of did it assumedly like how I would do it, but I think I should probably add more things next time. Because I really only had like 3 tiers and then like one crazy one that I knew nobody would get, and I really hope nobody did, which was the cover. So really it was like a bookmark, a normal book, and then a bookmark print or something. I don't remember. Yeah, no, a bookmark and then an original page. So I really only had like 3 tiers, and most people who do Kickstarters have like 7,000 tiers. So maybe I'll do like 5 tiers. Not anything crazy, just like maybe a few more.
Yeah.
It's in some ways it's best to keep it simple. I mean, because the more tiers and things you get, the more complicated it gets. And I've heard varying opinions on whether it's better to have more tiers or less tiers or whatever. But I think I might
have the book formatted before you do the Kickstarter. That's what took me so long, was formatting it. This is like
and
whole
going
time.
back and changing
and redrawing
all the
pages.
clothing
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that, but it's like, I don't know, man. If I'm gonna like have a book out and then like something irks me so bad that I don't want to sell it,
Yeah.
then it's got to change. Like there's not a negotiable factor. I thought about not changing it. I really did. I was like so close to not doing it, but I know that it would just bother me to the point where I'd be ashamed of it. So I had to fix it. And that took a long time. But the formatting, oh my freaking God. Like you wouldn't think, oh, it's only 290 pages. That's not going to take long. Yeah, it takes a long time to format that. And I would probably, I don't know, again with the backer report thing, that was just awful. Everything else, like getting the tier stuff, that was easy. Like I don't know why people complain about that. I was like, that was like stupid easy. But maybe it's just because I'm used to it because I have a store. But yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think you really did a good job with your rewards. You didn't put anything crazy in it that was going to offset the weight and everything. And again, that's from having your own store. But or anything like T-shirts where you got to worry about different people's sizes, because if you're worried about people not giving you their email, then start throwing in different size T-shirts. Your address, but anything custom like that.
I don't know. I went back and forth on a lot of different tiers, but I don't know. I'm really picky with the stuff that I want to put on there, because it's like, I don't want to talk to you. Like if a lot of people have those tiers where you talk to, I don't care about you. I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
That's so mean, but it's like, I don't want to talk to you. You can just email me. I don't want to video chat. I don't know you, which is mean, but oh man, I can't do that. So all my tiers are very non-personal, I feel, but I don't know. I felt like it was you didn't get enough out of the Kickstarter, I feel, so a lot of people get a lot of exclusive stuff, and mine was just not as exclusive. I don't know. I'm not an expert at it at all.
I'm guessing though, you're worrying about what tiers to include and all that stuff. I'm guessing you probably didn't, or maybe you did, I don't know, but probably didn't get anyone complaining oh, you should have had this kind of tier or that kind of tier, or did you?
Not really, no. Because again, Purgatory, most people haven't even read the comic.
Yeah. I think we kind of worry about stuff like that too much, because I think people are just happy for the book, and anything extra that you can throw in there, they're more than happy to, oh, that's cool,
Yeah, shipping them out was so easy. Well, I didn't have thousands. When people are people what's his Jason God, his name is hard. Brubaker.
Yeah.
When you watch his videos, that's because he's having thousands of books to sell. Since mine was 300, it was reasonable. And again, I haven't shipped out 50 because people haven't sent me their stuff. So I've really only sent out 250 packages, maybe a little more because I had to also send out artwork. But that was not hard, and that was the part I was stressed out the most about. So
yeah, I didn't find it hard. It just maybe it took a little bit of time, but it wasn't hard.
Well, I bought this label printer, which I full disclosure, everybody needs one of those if you have an online store, because it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's
I want to get those.
it's a 4x6 label printer, so it prints the like 4 inches by 6 inches, and it's a thermal printer, so when it gets wet, it's not going to mess up or anything. And I pretty much just printed all the labels like in one day, and I had most of the stuff done in one day. So that was awesome. I don't know why I worried about shipping. I don't know. I worry about shipping like all the time with my store. Shipping is a killer.
As far as like things getting there with unharmed or
like lost or
yeah,
or just like international mail. Ugh, I hate international mail. It's like my enemy.
Yeah.
Because it's $23 to send something to Britain.
So how are you like, if you don't mind me asking, like how are you purchasing like bulk postage? Are you using like stamps.com, or are you using like the post office, or?
I'm using Incendia, so it's kind of like stamps.com, but it's more suited towards like the printer that I have. And you basically just copy paste in the address, and then it will validate it through USPS, and then you can just like click through each one of them. You can fill out the customs form if it's international right there on it, and then print it out, and it's super easy. Like most of the package took like less than like a minute to get everything together, so it was easy. And now it's awesome for my store, although that printer is like stupid expensive for like how tiny, and like it's like $200 for the stupid thing, and I'm like, oh man, this should be like 50.
I'm sure, yeah. In the long run, it'll save money, and I plan on looking into those at some point. But right now, like I don't know if I told you this story, but I was at Walmart once, and they had these sticker labels, and they're the really nice ones that you like. I don't know what they call them, but like you can actually paste over another label, and it won't show through, real opaque and everything.
Yeah, the gray back ones, those are awesome. I love those.
Yeah. And they were like 30 cents for a pack, and I swear it had to have been a mistake. but I just went and bought as many as I could, and so I've just got a stockpile of them, and I pay, because usually those get expensive, and the printer, I also, like my printer, I found these super cheap ink cartridges online. Like I can get like 2 of each cartridge for the same as it would cost me basically for 1 cartridge if I just went to, Staples or whatever. So it doesn't cost me a lot of money, but eventually when I run out of those labels and everything, I probably want to get one of those. It's probably, I'm sure your way is faster, because right now it's just a matter of me, I basically have to go into Illustrator, I change the address, and then I, print it out on the label. So it's not super easy. Like I can't just import a bunch of addresses and have them print out for me, but
that's still pretty good though, because
yeah,
I like this printer, but it's kind of weird with certain things. Like I don't know, like today I had a printing error, and I spent like 2 hours trying to figure out why it wouldn't like register the labels, and I was just so pissed off, and then I realized I just had to like click this button.
Yeah, I hate like right now my printer, like it wasn't printing blue, so I use, and I had that problem before, and I fixed it with the thing where I got one of the kits where you clean out the cartridge. So I did that, and then when I ran the test, then my yellow stopped working. So
oh god, printers are like demons.
I suspect they build them to like just kind of by default start self-destructing at a certain point.
Oh, I'm sure. I wouldn't doubt it.
Because every time you like have to do the runs, like the clean cycle, it's like it pretty much seems like it just sucks all the other ink dry.
Yeah.
I have like a wide format printer, and it's like every now and again it just likes to ink explode everywhere, and I'm just oh my god. And then I have to fix it. Printers suck. I hate printers.
Yeah, I've got some questions. I'll probably wait till afterwards, but I got some questions about the wide format printer because I just acquired one and I want to get like what is the system called? It's just a
continuous ink system.
Yeah, so I've been looking at that, but I don't want to bore the audience with that, but I want to talk to you about it afterwards. So, but
okay.
so other than that, Kickstarter, I assume I assume it went well enough that you're going to want to do another one.
Yeah, because then I'll at least have one more tier, because then I'll have 2 books.
Yeah, and and especially because you're doing a different book, I think your next Kickstarter is gonna. I think they're just gonna get better and more successful. But like with mine, because I'm not doing like huge books like yours. I'm just doing single issues, and I'm kind of wondering when I do my next Kickstarter is it not going to do as well because people have already got the first 3 issues, and then all they're going to need is the 4th issue. But then again, my audience has kind of grown a little bit since then, so there's probably a bunch of people who don't have any of them. And then I'm thinking, well, what do I call it? What do I call this Kickstarter? Do I call it issue 4? Because then to me, that's kind of like, that may turn people off that maybe not familiar with it and think that's all they're going to get, when I want them, if I want them to have the opportunity to get the whole set. So I don't know. I'm so far away from that, but I'm just trying to think, how best to approach that. I don't know.
Well, I can tell you, like, right now, because I have like the 3, I would be so pissed if I didn't have that 4th one in the comic version.
Yeah.
Because I would probably buy the book and then also have, because it's like, oh, I hate that when you have like a book series and then like one of them is different. It's oh god, it just drives me up the wall. I have a Harry Potter book that's wrong, and I just, it's the 2nd printing and all the other ones are 1st, and it just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
So I think you should do the individual one, just so it'll match, and then when you do the final one, like the book. I don't think it would deter people. I think maybe even people would probably want both for the book one. I don't know. People are weird.
Yeah. When I do the whole collection, I'll do it because it's really nothing extra to do like a print on demand, just a short run, just single issue. So yeah, but I'm just wondering if everyone it's kind of like, did everyone that actually wants this book already get it the first time around? And is just one extra issue enough for them to, I don't know. I'll find out. But there's typically when each Kickstarter you run, hopefully would be more successful than the previous one. But I don't know. I could be wrong.
I don't know. Kickstarter's kind of still, like, you can do one thing wrong and screw it all up. Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I'm like 100% like not very excited about the next one, but I'm like, oh well, if it does worse, then whatever. I at least know that I'll probably get the book made. So
what do you think? Do you think you'll have, which one do you think you'll have done for your next Kickstarter? Will it be
Purgatory?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Just because the Paranormal Plague pages take. Keep in mind, I'm not going to do individual issues for Paranormal Plague. That's just not my thing. I like books. So, like, when it's a comic book, it's not like, I don't know. To me, with the way I write stuff, it's just, that would make no sense.
Yeah. If I was as prolific as you, I would do the same thing, but I need something to kind of bookmark or put a pin in something, just to satisfy me until I get to the next stage. But my ultimate goal is to have a book,
I think it's more about writing style. Because I went to the comic book shop near my house and I bought a couple comics and I'm like, this comic's going by too fast.
That's true. Yeah,
it freaked me out a little bit because I don't usually buy superhero titles or anything because I'm not that type of nerd. I'm a different type of nerd. So I bought a Spider-Man, and I was just like, what? It's like there's 20,000 things in one page. And I don't know, it stresses me out a little bit
Yeah.
when I do my stuff like that. So I think it's totally about like just how you write. Like some things are more suited to a floppy.
Yeah, I feel kind of similar because I like what I'm writing doesn't have a lot of like huge like page turn like tension. Like it's kind of a slow build. And so it's one of those things where initially I was going to put these out as floppies, and I finally came to the conclusion like it's kind of silly. I need to put these out as books, similar to what you're doing, because just the nature of the storytelling, like people need 60 pages to kind of really get into this thing, and it's kind of, and it's partially because I want those moments where I can have somebody like maybe like they take a drag of a cigarette and then the next panel is just them inhaling it and just thinking, like I like that, like those short pauses, and I like pacing, but I also don't know if I'm made for like the really quick, snappy storytelling, So I think you're right. It's like a style thing,
Well, it's like with a lot of like the super like a bunch of stuff on a page. Those people are like so geared towards doing like the 16 panel thing or 9 panel or whatever, and I'm just like, the max panels I'll ever do on a page is 7, like max. I don't know. Something about it just like really. Maybe it's just like because I read manga more than comics, so like I'd never ever see that many panels on a page, so it just like freaks me out a little bit whenever I see it. I'm like, oh, yeah, I mean, it makes sense because the book is actually bigger, but I just don't think about it. I think it's a lot of people who tend to do the more panels are more comic people than me.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's funny because I tend to limit my panels, but I did do a page with like 38 panels or something on it.
Oh God.
But like for me, my take on the paneling thing is like, I think you should dictate your panels based on the moment in the story. So like, if you have a moment in your story where it's like you want to build a lot of tension, then you can take advantage of the fact that makes you feel anxiety. Do you want the user, like the reader, to feel anxiety? Then you make like an anxiety-ridden page full of like 50 panels with just like different eye expressions or something, There's so much freedom in paneling. And I think it's smart to stick to a small amount most of the time. I think that's a good general rule of thumb.
Well, I just know that I also stick to that rule because Purgatory is printed small.
Yeah.
It's not like a giant American-sized book.
Yeah.
Because those are like almost 7 by 10 inches, which is like so huge to me because Purgatory is like 5 inches. So like the amount of detail would be screwed. Like you wouldn't be able to see half the stuff if I tried to put all that in there.
Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like that's
so when I'm doing Paranormal Plague, it's like I have to remind myself like, oh hey, you could like add more. like with this 5th page, it's like 6 times more stuff than like the first 4. I'm like, oh yeah, there's room.
Yeah, that is a weird transition because the book I did before this was 6 by 9, which is pretty small, And so like these ones, I'm doing the pages really big, and then I think I'm going to end up printing it like 8 by 10, which is bigger than like a standard comic format. And so like,
it's like a magazine.
Yeah, and so like and it looks really good at that size. But if it went any smaller, like especially with the amount of hatching and stuff, it would just be like gray just blobs. Like it'd be totally indistinguishable. So like I can see what you're saying because like having. Yeah, if you did have like a ton of panels, it would have to be like really like almost like graphic icons or something, which I don't know if that would really fit with Purgatory.
No. Yeah, I don't know. Paneling always like kind of stresses me out because again, I don't feel like I'm very good at it. So like, I don't know. I constantly like just grab a bunch of different comics and just like see how they do their paneling. because you kind of, well, at least for me, I always forget, like, you don't have to make it in grid.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be, like, landlocked like this, but that's, like, my go-to thing is just to make it a grid. So I've been trying to force myself to not do that. But it's really difficult sometimes. Yeah.
It is. It's hard, and then, like, it's like the thing Scott was talking about too, where it's like if you're working on something, you start falling on like crutches, especially if it's something like you've done a lot of pages of. So it's like if you're like, 10 pages in, like it's a lot easier to be like, and then I'm gonna have like a full bleed page with like this thing gelling into the other. But when you're like 50 pages in, it's a little harder to be like, oh yeah, I gotta stop doing just because your default's gonna be just to draw that grid. It is hard to break. At least I struggle with that too, breaking out of the grid. And then I also love the grid when it's used effectively, So that's a whole thing too.
Well, it's like, I don't know, sometimes it's really tough because it's like if you break the format too much, then there is no format and it's just all a mess. I've read a couple comics. Johnny the Homicidal Maniac is like a perfect example of this. It's like such an edgy comic, but he does these panel borders that are just like super, super detailed and weird, but you can tell that he changed paper sizes like 6 times because like the borders don't match. And then he also changed like the type of border, and it makes me want to barf. I'm sorry, Jonan, but like I don't like that. That was like 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, so I'm sure he knows that, but that reading it just makes me want to barf. So I like try to, I don't know, it's hard to like experiment without like shock, without really jacking it up. So I try to, where I know it's going to be like a shock, really, really try to push it now. It's just so hard to sometimes. Because it's like, that's hard.
But I think that's like half the fun of comics too, right? Because like I feel like it for me it seems like the one thing that, not the one thing in art, but for me it seems like the most challenging art form I've ever tried, and I still have no idea what I'm doing. And I like every time I figure something out, there's a new thing, yeah.
Because even with illustration, I feel like it's not nearly as, I don't know, this is probably being douchey to illustrators, but I feel like it's not nearly as difficult as comics, for me anyway. Yeah. I'm not an illustrator though. I make comics.
I think it depends, I think it depends, because I think like the neat thing is there's a crossover now, where like cartoonists do illustration, most illustrators do cartoons, So it's like this really blurry line. And I do think like the one thing I think that illustration really nails is like composition. And I think that good cartoonists get that too. So you have those anomalies like I always bring up, like Chris Ware, where he's doing New Yorker cover illustrations and he's doing graphic novels, and he's doing both pretty brilliantly. But it's like, I've seen both. I've seen illustrators who I'd love to see try to tackle a comic because I think they'd just get eaten alive. And then I've seen cartoonists that I think need to do more illustration because they'll get a better idea of like composition and like, saying something with one image. But it is really different when you, like animation and cartooning, where you have to like repeat the same character over and over and over again and be on model. That's like a different ball game,
Well, it's not just, it's like when I try to explain like comic paneling, that's like probably the hardest thing for me to explain to like an animator or even an illustrator, because it's not really like any other medium. I think that's the primary difference between every other medium. It's that comic paneling is weird, like, because in every other format of like reading or a movie, they don't change like the size. They don't change like your viewing experience in a movie, it's always going to be a 16:9 ratio throughout the whole thing. So something about like changing that, I think, really jacks with your mind.
Oh yeah.
Like, I would love to see a movie try this, but every movie that I've seen try it, it's tacky. But like try to change the format midway through or something. And you see that sometimes with like the close-ups, and then they'll add more of a border in movies. But that's not enough. That's nothing compared to like what comics do.
Yeah, I think
so. Like,
comics,
it's weird.
Yeah, I think it's more like music. I mean, it's like there's more of a tempo to like paneling, and like so it's more like, you know, you've got your verses, you've got your tempo, and you've got your choruses, and you have these crescendos, and all of that has to do with your sizing and your choices. But to me, that is the fascinating thing about comics, is like, you know, with an illustration, particularly, let's say it's like a full page spread or something, like kids' books, I think, get a little closer to comics, you know, because you have to think about like pacing the pages and the page count and stuff. But like, if you're just talking about like a full page spread, you really just have to worry about the borders of that page and how you're going to frame whatever it is, you know, that you're going to depict. And whereas like with comics, you're right. It's like you're deciding like, you know, do I want this to be like a really like long shot, like, or do I want it to be really wide? Do I want it to be like super tall? Do I need this to be like a square? And then like, then you have within that little panel all the challenges that you'd have on that single page illustration. You know?
Yeah.
I've always found it like just baffling that I like doing it, because it's like, you know, it's really time consuming.
I used to hate comics, like, which is so weird to me. Because again, I used to want to be like an animator, which it's so weird because it's like, I'm such a shitty animator. I only want to do the keyframes, which is basically comics.
Yeah.
So, I used to hate comics because I was just like, they're just illustrations. Anyone can do it. I tried it and I'm like, oh fuck, they're hard. They're like not easy. I don't know, it was like an epiphany for me. I was like, oh hey, this is like its own thing.
Yeah.
And I think most people who like think of comics who are artists, I think there's like this like kind of pretentiousness to like, oh, I could do that. No, you can't, not unless you like do it for a long time.
Yeah.
Like I'm on like, I don't, like page 325 of like Purgatory, and I still feel like my panels are shit. So like, yeah, I don't know. Recognizing different art mediums as being different is, I think that's something that like is just a maturity thing. Like, I think a lot of people also think like all animation is the same at first, and I'm just like, stop. It's not all the same. I don't know. It gets me real heated when I see people compare 3D animation to 2D, and I'm like, they're not the same. They're not. Don't compare the two. You can't.
I agree. And what's interesting to me is like, a lot of the animators I know are like really wanting to work on comics. It's a weird thing.
Well, that's,
you know,
that's like the other thing. It's like when you, that's another reason why I kind of just didn't want to do animation anymore, is that just like the way animation works as a business, you don't get to work on what you want. And that's like real sad. Like, if you wanted to work on what you want, you will never make money off of your animation. Like, that's just a fact. Unless you are like a studio runner working for years, or just super fucking lucky to get your own show. And even then, it's a collaborative effort. Animation is not like your thing. It's everyone's thing. Like, it's like these 16 storyboarders thing. It's so like the fact that I can make something and it's all mine. Like, you know, like my conceited self is just like, yes, it's all mine. It's my idea. Whereas animation, it's like, well, it's like maybe 0.25% mine. Like, I don't know. Comics are nice because it's also, you own it so much more than an animation ever could.
Yeah, and I think like I think the personalities drawn to it are people who want to see like, you know, like the kind of comics we're talking about that are creator owned, you know, like you're writing, you're drawing, you're doing the whole thing. I think people are drawn to that. Like, I think we do have like a desire to kind of control like the creative, like the story, to be able to tell it entirely. The visuals, like control like the pacing. It's less controlled in film, right? Because you're not like forcing people. Like if I'm reading your comic, I could like read one panel of yours and spend like an hour on it, you know, like just looking at one panel. And you know, you can kind of design it to try to get the eye away from it, but that's kind of, I guess, more interactive than film. So it's not quite as controlling as film, but from the creator perspective, it's like you have more control over it. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like I just talked myself into a hole.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just the fact that you can make your own thing and it's like a finalized product and finalized story all on your own. I think it's like really empowering as opposed to like the sadness of animation where it's like, this is 2 minutes. I spent a year on it. You know, and you get maybe, you know, the very basic stuff about this character, you know, that's really sad to me. But I still have like this, I really like animation still. It's just, oh boy. That's how I feel about animation is, ugh. No. Not unless you pay me a lot of money. And I'm not even worth it. There's better people out there for the job. Yeah.
I always think that, you know, comics are, you know, the amount of work that goes into comics for, you know, what the reward is. But it's like, I mean, then when you think about animation, I mean, it's
well,
like,
it's like
you said,
I'm
you're doing your own independent thing, which is just almost
like animation's
impossible.
fun. Animation's fun. It's just like, just right now, you just can't make it a job, and that's kind of what makes it. I think that's kind of the difference. Is like you really can make comics your job at like currently, if you're really like trying.
Yeah.
You really can't with the animation, and that's like really sad.
Yeah.
Even if you're like a really great animator, like I follow a bunch of animators, and Rubber Ross, he's basically like, I don't know, he works for Game Grumps. He's like a really, really, really good animator, like probably the best one on YouTube. And he tried so hard to make it work for the algorithm, and it worked for a long time. Like YouTube used to like actually favor content over like video length. So that's why there were so many animators at one point, and then like YouTube just fucked everybody over. And now he has to do other stuff, and it's just like, oh man, that sucks.
Yeah, and I've heard, you know, advice for people who do animation channels, whereas, you know, you can make it work, but the animation is just one aspect of that channel. You kind of go behind the scenes and like, this is how I do a voiceover, or this is how, you know, actually showing different, like, I'm working on a keyframe today, or just different parts of animation, not necessarily just the animation, because it just takes so long, like almost like a vlog on the making of the animation. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just, I think maybe the algorithms will eventually change again. So, you know, who knows in the future of animation, but it's just it always makes me sad every time I think about animation. So I like, but I still like try to do it every now and again. I'm doing an animation challenge right now.
I saw the one you were doing. I think it was from Hamilton or something. I saw it.
That's an animatic. But I'm also doing. Hold on. I think I can pull it up. I'm doing an animation for like Draw with Jazz's challenge thing. It's only 120 frames, so I think I can do it. But I'm doing it on ones, which is like 120 drawings. but I think I want to make it as fluid as possible, because if you win this, you get what is it? God damn it. That Wacom Mobile Studio Pro, and I really, really, really want it because I could use it. So I'm going to try.
What is that? What is that? Is that like a Cintiq, like a mobile Cintiq?
It's like a Cintiq that, like, yeah, it's basically like a Cintiq that you can carry around everywhere.
So is it like the companion?
It's like better than the companion. It's awesome.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and I really want. I've wanted to do digital art like outside and doing all that stuff, and I'm like, oh well, this will give me an excuse to sketch that I don't need to sketch. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting just for the price to go down and that stuff. Eventually it will, but right now,
it's insanity. It's like if you want like anything that can do stuff mobily, it's like you're gonna pay $1,000 to $3,000. Screw you.
But just think about this. I mean, before you couldn't draw on a screen unless you had a Cintiq, and now there's so many options. Just and just like with you, I mean, now you opted to go with the Huion, right? Is it Huion? Is that
yeah. Instead
of the Cintiq.
And it's really good. I mean, they actually just sent me a new tablet. I'm using the new one. They need to stop sending me things. I feel kind of bad, but I don't feel bad because it's free. But I have to do a review for this one.
Are there any strings attached to that? Could you like do a giveaway for your channel, or I mean, I don't know what you would.
I'm basically
once you upgrade.
I'm basically compiling all the tablets because I've had a couple companies send me tablets at this point. It's honestly insane. Like this, I don't know what happened this month, but I guess a bunch of companies realized I did tablet reviews, and then they just sent me a bunch of them. So I'm gonna compile all of them in my room and then do one gigantic giveaway. Because I don't need all these. What the heck? Like, I'm not going to sell them. Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
I mean, I could sell them, but I don't know. I'd feel a little bad about doing that.
Yeah.
So might as well just, like, give it to people who really probably need them. Because tablets are not cheap.
Well, they're getting a little cheaper.
Yeah. Like this one, the one that I'm currently using, it's basically a Cintiq. It's like 22 inches, and it's got 10 hotkeys. And it's got like the same texture as like the Cintiqs do. It's basically a Cintiq except for the pen. Like if Huion changed their pen, it would be exactly like a Cintiq.
Right.
It's
I mean because the first tablet I bought was Huion, and I wasn't happy with it, but that was a while back.
Yeah, it's like they have flaws, and like the last one I got, it was like pretty close, except for the texture on the screen was off. It's like every tablet that they come out with, it's like inching its way up to being a Wacom, basically. Yeah. It's funny. Yeah, sorry. Just blinking on.
No, I just found it very interesting. It's like I mean, other than the iPhone or Apple products, technologies always tend to get cheaper, most technology. So
I like have no confidence that I'll win that animation thing because I'm just like I said, piss poor at animating. But
we could go on a whole other thing about challenges, or not challenges, but contests. I mean, I'm kind of against contests, but
they're such a shit show. But I mean, whatever. I'm mostly doing it just for funsies. Yeah, because I can use the animation for promo for Paranormal Plague, so it's like
exactly, yeah. As long as and that's even like this. If these things that I'm working on right now, if I never actually sell on Creative Market, that's okay because I've got other uses and things for them that I plan to do with them. So it's not going to be a waste of my time. But
well, it's also with that kind of stuff. With that kind of stuff, it's got more of a use. Like I could totally, cause like what's his name, Kyle T. Webster, who does like very similar kind of digital product stuff.
Yeah.
Like I watched this podcast where he was on there because he's actually an illustrator, and like he doesn't actually illustrate that much because he's so busy making his brushes and stuff because they're so friggin' popular. And he was talking about he really didn't explode till he had like six different like products about brushes. Just like
and
such
that's
a
kind of what I'm
specific.
thinking.
Yeah.
Because
So,
Creative
I don't
Market
know.
also sent me, because they sent, and you know, they sent me like some hints, or like not hints, but some helpful tips, and they said, you know, once you get like 4 products, you know, make a product. If you make a product and if you offer it for free, or like if they feature it as a free product, they said that always like boosts sales of your other products and things like that. So that's something I might consider doing. But yeah, there's all these little things. But I think like I've talked about this on my like shop videos, where if you just go to a shop and they have like one product that kind of looks pathetic, and that's what I have right now, even though it's been well received, it's still kind of, you go there and it's like, well, he's got one thing, you know. But once they see that, oh, I've got you know, a few different things,
Yeah.
then it's a little more legit.
I'm trying to do that with Gumroad. I have these like posable figures and stuff, and like I'm totally like, I have like this like lighting setup and everything, and I'm like, if I just like pose these characters in like typical comic poses, maybe people would download that for like $1.
Yeah.
And if I did like just like 1,000 images or something, like it would be totally worth it for $1.
Yeah.
And then just like keep doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's the other thing with this, is that the price point's a little high. I mean, I think it's worth it. I mean, I think if you're actually going to use it for a product that you're going to sell, it's definitely more than worth it. But you know, it's like a $25 price point for a digital product, and you know, it's sort of a turn off for some people. But
that's not that bad though, if you have.
And there's a lot of work
that
like, goes into it. Yeah.
Yeah, because icons are such a pain in the ass. Like, especially like just for branding and stuff. It's like every like YouTube channel that's not art that I follow, they're always like trying to find people's stuff, you know, to make their like icons, and that's always, I don't know. I feel like if you do enough of those, it'll work.
Well, the good thing about these is they're so customizable, as opposed to, there's a lot of people selling like little robot clip art things, but it's basically, you get what you get. Where this, you can at least, you know, add your own creativity to it and everything. So, but I do want to I do want to create like, you know, fonts which I can attach like maybe like an $8 price point to, or some fonts go anywhere from like 8 to like 15 on average. So, you know, I want to have some things that won't take as long to do, that you know, that may move a little better. But I don't know, we'll see. It's kind of an experiment.
For the fonts, are you gonna do like what kind of licensing on that? That you know, that's gonna be a little weird on the fonts. I would be a little careful with certain fonts, because some people could like just use the crap out of it, and it's only $8. You know?
Yeah, but that is a lot of people's hesitation just of creative marketing in general, especially people that create fonts, because whereas before, you know, if you buy, you know, a family of fonts, you could pay hundreds of dollars for it, and and usually the fonts on Creative Market, I mean, they're good, but they don't have like every single possible character you can think of, and all that. I mean, they're a little more scaled down, and it's a lot of like script fonts and things like that. But you know, I don't know. I guess I just kind of, I approach these differently than I would if I was doing an illustration for somebody. I guess I don't know, because that's the nature of the way things sell there. So I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a good question. It's something to think about.
I've never like looked into like making fonts are always weird to me. They always stress me out. I had to like look into like all the fonts I used for Purgatory for free, and I had to like check the licensing like 10 times because I don't know, it freaks me out. Because I don't want to get sued.
Well, yeah, with Creative Market, you basically, they have 2 different licenses. One's, I forgot. One's like, it's not like a one-time use. I think fonts are different too. I think there's only like one, you know, usage package or whatever you can buy with it. But you basically just give, you know, whoever the right to do whatever they want with it if they pay for it. But so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess if it's like a super good or specific font, it's sort of just like, Because sometimes I have fonts that I'm like, I'm going to use you once, and that's it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. Because like usually I get most of my fonts I got for free, except for the one that I use for the lettering in my comic book. Because just because I wanted it to be sort of a premium font because I knew I was going to get so much use out of it, you know. So.
I like tried to make a font, and it was of my handwriting, and it was just like so piss poor. I was just like,
yeah. I mean, I used to do a lot of like lettering and hand drawn logos and things like that. And it's been a while, so but there's what is it called? I think it's called Font Self. I'm not sure. I think that's the name of it. But it's like, it's sort of, basically you can design all your fonts in Illustrator, and it's kind of, it's like an Illustrator plugin. I think it's like $50. And then I guess you can kind of take your fonts and convert it into, take your letters and convert it to actual font. And you can do it in Illustrator, which I like because I'm used to Illustrator, you know. There's some other font programs, but you have to design it in that program, and then there's a whole other learning curve to that. So I'm going to look into that. But prior to, I didn't have, prior to probably a month ago, I didn't have Creative Cloud at home. I just had it at work, but now I've got it at home. So, and that program only worked with like Creative Cloud, so it won't work with like the older versions of, Illustrator or whatever. So. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
But,
I love the Creative Cloud. I know it's like so much more expensive, but it's just like, it's so much more convenient.
yeah, it was difficult for me because I used it at work, and then I came home, and I mean, you can still, I don't want to give anyone the wrong impression, like you can still pretty much do what you need to do with the older versions for the most part, but it does have some other features and things that you kind of get used to.
Yeah, I have that issue right now. I'm on an older version of Illustrator and Photoshop, and then like I'm running on Creative Cloud at work, so it is a bit of a, even just like the fact that, because Creative Cloud has even a different kind of dock, like a different look. So
yeah.
Just like even that can throw you off if you're used to doing shortcuts and like really fast digital artwork. It can throw you off to be like, oh, that's where they have this, or that's the new icon for this thing. It's a weird one.
Yeah, it like really jacked me up because for a long time, I used to like do my lettering in Flash, which I don't know why I did, because Flash is such a shit program. And then I don't know, I quit doing that, but I got the Creative Cloud. It turned into Adobe Animate, and it just crashes every 5 seconds. I don't know what the heck happened. Like they just screwed it up. So it's like, it's not all the changes are for the better, but yeah, I don't know, like shit. It almost makes it hard for you to use the other version now. Like they're just like forcing you to do it. Screw you, Adobe.
Yeah, and the thing that's made me hold off on it is it feels like a shakedown. Like now I have to pay more for my.
Yeah, because it's a monthly fee, and you can't like not. You can't use it. Like I tried to get out of it once. I was like, oh, but maybe if I just keep pressing cancel, I can have it for. I don't know. I tried and it didn't work. I really thought it would, but
the Adobe police go up, or
no, it just like won't let you use the programs. It'll act like it opens and then it just doesn't let you. Ugh.
I don't like the subscription-based programs very much at all.
Not for like art stuff. That's just, we're already broke. That's not fair. It's like I had to get it for school, so I have to have like the full stupid suite where I don't use 90% of these stupid programs. Like Character Animator. Like what even is that? That's just garbage. I can tell you what it is. It's motion animated garbage. It's like for kid shows. But like it's such a specific program that just takes up space on my computer and I can't get it off.
What is it? What are they replacing Flash with?
Adobe Animate. It's just Flash with a different name, and it crashes more.
Okay. But if you use Flash, you can figure out animate then.
Yes, but it is inherently shittier.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean I haven't done animation in so long, but that's how I did animate. If I ever have to do it again, it's gonna suck if Flash isn't around anymore. But you know,
nobody uses Flash. Everybody uses Toon Boom now.
Yeah, but then again, to me that's a whole other program that I would have to learn. That you know, if
I did the demo version of it. It's like Flash,
except
like it's like Flash with like maybe 2 extra steps. They have like more complicated stuff, but I didn't do like the crazy version because they like Toon Boom is just confusing if you like want it to be. If you're making like character rigs, but I don't like puppet animation. I think it's ugly.
Yeah.
So I have no purpose for it, but that's why they have all those complicated features, so they can make complicated rigs to have characters move. But like, if you're just doing frame by frame, you can do that in like literally every program.
Well, frame by frame you could do. Yeah, I mean you could do that in Photoshop, or you could just take photos and string them together.
Yeah.
You know? Or
even if you have like minor tweening, almost every program can do that now too. So it's like, I don't know. The only purpose you would need for like those really complicated stuff is if you did like puppeteering kind of things. Not to knock it, I personally have qualms with it. I think it looks stiff if you do it wrong. But sorry. Just aggressively hating on an animation form. Yeah, that's just lovely, Holly. People are gonna love that.
I think, yeah. I mean, I think people like you for your opinion, so I don't think anyone.
I don't know. It's like every time I watch a show now, it's like all of them are puppet animation.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, but if I was going to do animation, that's probably what it would be. But you know, but I agree. I mean, obviously, I love to see like a smooth, like frame by frame animation, but you know, it's just not probably feasible budget wise for a lot of these shows. But
it is if you send them to Korea. Sorry, all right, I'll stop talking about animation.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we've gone at least an hour and a half, I think. So I don't know if we want to table it, and then we'll have you back on again sometime. And you know, by then you'll probably have another comic book done and another Kickstarter. But yeah, so let's. I don't know if you guys got anything you wanted to kind of say before we kind of tell everyone where to find us again and all that kind of stuff.
YouTube, Holly is totally cool, and then you'll find it super easy. All my stuff is linked in there.
All right. What about you, Josh? Where can everyone find you?
Quarterlystories.com, or you can just search for Joshua Kemble with a K on YouTube, and I'll show up. Scott, where can we find you?
You can find me right here at Serkworks on YouTube, or at Serkworks.com, or Serkworks on Instagram, or Serkworks on Twitter, or Serkworks on Facebook. But yeah, so just for everyone, so everyone knows where you can find this show. It rotates back and forth between Josh's channel and my channel, and we usually do it every week. Sometimes it's on a Wednesday. Sometimes it's on a Thursday, and so if you want to know exactly when it is, then you can sign up for our newsletter, we call it, or mailing list or email list or whatever you want to call it. But basically what it is you sign up for that, and you will get a little notification probably about 30 minutes before we go on the air, just so you know where it's going to be and when it's going to be and all that stuff. And we don't spam you or anything like that. We just let you know when the show's going to be on. And yeah, that's pretty much how it works. So I wanted to thank everyone in the chat, and Yeah, well, thanks, Holly, for coming on. And if you guys don't have anything else to say, then we will see you next week, and we'll have a different guest on. So, and it'll be in Josh's channel, so maybe he'll find a guest. He's got a bunch of cool people that he wants to get on, so we'll see. So join us next week, and we'll see everyone later.